Fastamai, a very good evening to you. And those familiar opening words and that music tells us that it is time for us to welcome into the studio Howard Parkin for the Manx Sky at Night. Howard, it has been too long since we have had the opportunity to talk.
It most certainly has, Judith. Fastamai to you.
Good evening, Howard, and welcome. And it's great to be in the studio with you. We've lots to talk about, not going to waste a moment. We've got to talk about the sky as it is at the moment, and then you've got a lot of exciting news for us as we stand on the threshold of a new year.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing what's going on at the moment.
Well, I need to tell you that although we don't get the chance to do this programme as often as I would like, I do still stand there and look at the sky and wonder whether I've got time to go and get my deck chair out.
No excuse. I expect the deck chair out now. Frosty weather, never mind. Outside, deck chair, eyes skyward.
Well, come on. What should we all be looking at?
Well, this is probably the best time of the year to do stargazing. I make no bones about that because it is the best time. And I mentioned this last month on my show. Just go outside. Tonight is a good example. There's a moon in the way, but it doesn't matter because the moon is drowning out the fainter stars. But just to the left of the moon, or east of the moon, if you look at the moon, it's almost due south at the moment as we came into the studio, you will see a lot of bright stars. Now turn round and look in any other direction you like. There is nothing like the same number of stars. The winter stars there's lots of them. There's about 15 very bright stars in the winter sky. We call the winter sky the sky you see at 10 o'clock from any location. That's the winter sky in the Northern Hemisphere. But you look in any other compass direction you like, you will not see the same profusion, the same amount of bright stars. And we are blessed because in the winter months, we've got long, dark nights. The winter constellations rise in the east, obviously, very early in the evening. About 6 o'clock, it's dark. We can see them right through till 6 o'clock the next morning. Obviously, they do slowly track across the sky, and we get the stars of spring and things like that coming out. But the winter stars dominate our skies. I often feel sorry for the people in Australia because their winter sky is what we see in our summer. And they see the summer in the winter and vice versa. And they don't get the long dark nights we get, but we get this wonderful display of the constellations of Orion and Gemini and Taurus the Bull and Sirius the Dog Star and all these. I could trot out all the names. But I often say to people, and I've said this to you before and I no doubt will say it again, just go out and look and be amazed at what you're seeing. You don't have to know the names of every constellation or every star or every mythology of them. Just enjoy it because it's so great to see it on a cold, frosty night like we've had just recently. It's great just to enjoy them and realise that the light from those stars is coming so many years in the past. You know, it just makes you think.
It really does. Do you know, you're absolutely right. It is good to be able to identify the different constellations and everything. But just to stand there, and it just makes you feel so small, doesn't it? Because the universe, it shows you just a glimpse of the vastness of the universe, because we've got no idea of how it all structures and what else.
There's a lovely quote by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and people say how you feel small because we're looking at the universe. And he says, no, I don't feel universe. I feel I'm part of the universe. Yeah. The universe is within us because the stars have got their ingredients end up being the ingredients that make us. The iron, some of the other elements in our bodies comes from interstellar explosions called supernova. We are made of stardust. So the universe that we look at that looks so vast is actually within our bodies as well. It gets quite philosophical when you start thinking about it. But it's a lovely thought, and just gaze up at them and enjoy them.
I think it's that phenomenon, I've only ever seen it here, where you almost feel, although it sounds a trite thing to say, you do feel that you could reach up and touch them because they seem to come down.
That's because they're so dark. You don't lose them at the horizon like you do in light polluted areas. I mean, I've been talking about the Isle of Man's dark skies for a number of years now, as well you know. And anywhere on the world where you get to see the stars right down to the horizon practically, where you see this dome of stars above you, it's just amazing. And we are so fortunate with our dark skies because, let's be honest, a secret just between you and me, the reason our dark skies are so great is because we're looking out to sea and there's no lights out at sea. That's why they're so good. That's what makes the island, I won't say unique because there are other islands that are not quite as good, but certainly not bad. But it's because when you're on an island looking seaward, even when you're on Douglas Promenade, you look out to sea, the lights will not affect you too badly. So that's why all our dark sky sites, a lot of them, I think probably about 75-80% of them, are all on the coast, and they take advantage of the fact that you've got such a great view out to sea where there are no lights whatsoever.
Well, I do remember, I think it was Cheryl and Brian Cousins who told me that because they live
out in
Dalby,
yeah, that's right,
and
yeah.
they said that I think it's either where they are or very close to where they live was where the Astronomer Royal chose to retire because it was the most unpolluted view that he could
Dalby
have.
is beautiful. I mean, Nayarble is one of the dark sky sites. I make no bones about it. That's fantastic. We've had a great history of going there as an astronomy society. We've been aurora spotting there when it was a cafe before it became a private residence, before it became a cafe again. It's a great location.
Now, I know that you're saying quite rightly, Howard, that just go out and enjoy. Just never mind about analysing, just enjoy. But if you did want to just kind of see, well, am I right in thinking that that's Orion or whatever?
Okay.
Is there a little book or something that you would recommend?
The first thing I would recommend is they get all these fancy computer apps you can get on your computer. I don't like them particularly because they're a bit clunky and they can go wrong quite easily if you move to a different location, on holiday or something. And they do work okay. You can get these apps and they're free on your phones. But what I would suggest is buying a planisphere. A planisphere, and I will bring one in next time we do this program together, Judy. I will show it to you. It's a disc, and you dial it to the right date, whatever date you want to look at, and that will show you all of the stars for that particular location, that particular night.
As simple as that.
And it's as simple as that. But what confuses a lot of people, when you look at a piece of paper or you look at a star map, the constellations look very small. You go outside with me tonight. Now, how's that for an invitation? After the show, we'll go stargazing. Look at the constellation of Orion on a piece of paper. I mean, I've got one in the studio now in front of me now. And Orion is due south, literally, at the moment as we're looking at the sky. But on a piece of paper, it's tiny. It's about half an inch tall. The reality of it, it's about 15, 20 degrees tall in the sky. It's massive. And quite often people say to me, I didn't realise that was Orion or that was Cygnus the Swan or whatever. They're so big, but that's because you're not looking at a tiny piece of paper in front of you, which is just a tiny part of your vision. You're looking at the whole dome of the sky out in front of you.
It's all scaled down.
A planisphere is a good thing, and I've got with me tonight, I've got the 2018 Guide to the Night Sky, which I use literally to make sure I know what highlights are coming up, what's different and everything else. And you can see, those are looking online, there we are. There's a star map showing exactly what we're looking at tonight.
Now that's exactly the kind of thing that I would have in mind. So you could just have a quick look. Not that you can use it as a slavish kind of thing that stops you just appreciating the beauty, but just to give you a rough idea. Because
so you know what you're looking at, yeah. I mean, actually, because it's the time of the year we've got, there are two things you can actually do. Anybody can do this. If it's a clear night, you can go outside and do this tonight if you wish after the show. Not during the show, because you've got to stay listening to us. Look due north. Look towards If you're in Ramsey, look towards the Point of Air. If you're in anywhere else, look towards Ramsey. And you will find the plough. Now, most people know the plough, the shape of the plough. Looks like a plough. The Americans call it the Big Dipper, but never mind. It looks like a plough, and it's standing on its tail. It's standing on the handle the farmer would pull, or the tail of the bear. And it's standing literally upright in the sky at the moment. And you can't mistake that. That is very easy to spot. What people get confused about the plough is it circles around the pole star. So in the autumn it's sitting on the horizon, in winter it's standing on its tail, in the spring it's overhead almost, and in the summer it's coming down with the tail sticking upwards. And that gives us the seasons, if you like. That's the seasonal variation of the plough. That's easy to spot. The plough, of course, is not a constellation. It's the constellation of Ursa Major, the Great Bear, of which the plough is just part of it. I must say that. Now, turn round 180 degrees and look due south, and you will see the constellation of Orion. And Orion is very easy to make out because there are three very bright stars that make up his belt, tilting from lower left to upper right. That belt of Orion is distinct. Three very bright stars. Nowhere else in the sky do you get three stars just like that. And that is the belt of Orion. And then above and below, you've got a bright star top left, you've got a bright star bottom right, and then other stars that make up this shape of Orion, which is quite classy. People know it. And incidentally, we're going to be doing an Orion star count in the next week or two, which I'll be talking about. I'll probably be doing something in the newsroom about that, because it's something that's just been decided. We're going to get not the whole Isle of Man, but anyone interested in the Isle of Man, to count how many stars they can see around the area of Orion the Hunter. And that's going to give us an idea of a scientific view of how bright and how good our skies are.
Excellent. That's something really interesting. We look forward to the outcome of that. Now, we say in the course of conversation, Oh, it happens once in a blue moon.
I know where you're going.
But there is something, you need to tell us something about a blue moon, don't you?
This is very special. I mean, I know we're still in December. This show is going out tonight. Sorry, I just bashed my microphone. January this year is the month when we have a blue moon in it. February, I won't say it's unique because it does happen occasionally. There is no full moon in the month of February at all this year. I don't know what the astrologers are going to say about that, because there is no full moon. What's happening? We're having a full moon on the 2nd of January. Yeah. If you look at the moon tonight, I mean, the funny thing was I just literally flew into the island today. We've been away with family. And my wife said, "Oh, look, there's the moon." And I said, "Yes, it must be getting towards full." She said, "How did you know?" I said, "Well, it's full on the 2nd of January. And you could see it in broad daylight because, of course, it's just past a half moon. But it's full on Tuesday, 2nd of January. 28 days later, it takes us to the 30th, we've got a full moon again. And the second full moon in any month, the second one is called a blue moon.
Really?
There you go. So that's what a blue moon is. A blue moon is not blue in colour. It is the name given to when you have two full moons in the same month, which does happen once or twice every year. I'm not sure it's once or twice or 3 times, but it does happen quite, because think about it, the moon takes 28 days to go from full back to full.
Yes.
Months are 30 days or 31 days.
Yes.
So it's not unusual to get a blue moon in a month. What is unusual is to get no moon, of course, in the month of February, which is exactly 28 days long.
Yes.
And the moon, the way it falls, it's before and after the next full moon in March. I think the 1st of March is the next full moon.
So it's really not quite as rare.
No, and in fact, this year is even more peculiar because March, we've got a blue moon in March as well.
2 in March as well?
2 in January, 2 in March, but none in February, which is quite unusual to get that succession of blue moons like that. And just to really finish it off for you, I don't like the expression, but it's become accepted. We've also got the supermoon. Both the moons in January are supermoons. They're occurring when the moon is at its relative closest to the Earth. Therefore, when it's within, I think it's 10% or 15% of the position of where the moon is at its closest to Earth and full, it is deemed a supermoon. So we have a supermoon on the 2nd of January. We have a supermoon on the 30th of January. Just going to check that date. I'm sure it's the 30th. Yes, it is. It's the 30th of January. And we've also got a lunar eclipse on the 30th of January as well, but not visible from the Isle of Man.
Right.
So in fact, 30th of January, it's blue, super and eclipsed.
Not bad for a start to the
That's
year.
not bad for a start of the year.
And Mary Black has got a song, not about the supermoon, but certainly about the blue moon.
Well, shall we listen to it now?
I found your letter.
You're listening to The Manx at Sky at Night, and Howard Parkin is in the studio, this time looking to the future, a bit of stargazing into the future. What have we got to look forward to? First of all, an exciting development at the nunnery, Howard. Tell us about that.
This was something that came out of the blue, and a lot of work gone into it. And Adrian Bell, who's behind this project, needs an awful lot of credit for doing what he's done in it, because he had this dream. He's very heavily involved in graphic design, all that sort of stuff. He designed Danger Mouse, or he drew out Danger Mouse, did Adrian. Very clever bloke. And he wanted to build a dome. I'm calling it a dome because he gets cross if you call it a planetarium. And that's rightly so, because what it is, in this modern technological era, we're all used to our TVs, on our curved TV screens, and 3D, which the problem with 3D and with virtual reality is you can't share it with a friend. You can sit. I went on a wonderful virtual reality thing on an airplane once. It was a mock-up of an airplane, and we're all sat there on the beach. But of course, your partner or your wife, husband, or whoever next to you has got their own glasses on. And they can't. You're not in the image with you. And with technology, people want to be included in everything. So, cut long story short, Adrian has built or got designed and built at the nunnery this dome facility. And its proper description is a 360-degree immersive cinema. That's what it is. But, of course, one of the biggest uses of that sort of facility in the past has been planetariums for stargazing or for astronomy programs. But what Adrian's trying to do is heavily, I don't want to say heavily, but he's very into the art side of it as well. Have you ever heard of Mandelbrot patterns? It's a mathematical thing where you have a shape and you zoom in on it and you zoom in on that and you zoom in on that and you just keep going forever and ever and ever zooming in on it. Yeah. It's a mathematical concept, and he showed me this fractal patterns and all this stuff, and it's fantastic to see. And of course, it's not just in front of you like I'm looking at you now and we're looking at a screen or whatever. It's behind you, it's the side of you, it's overhead, it's everywhere, and it really puts you into this area. And what Adrian's been doing is been going around filming things in the Isle of Man and all over the world. And he's got some wonderful shots, underwater shots of dolphins and things like that.
Wonderful.
And he's filming these things from the ground level up. When I say the ground, I mean literally on the ground, looking up at the grass and the things growing. And it's fantastic. It really is. And he's hoping, well, he's got the facility, credit to him, as I say, he's got the facility up and running. He's now looking at using it for corporate events and also for educational use. He's not intending to open it to the public as people just go along and attend it. Whether that will happen in the past is obviously down to what throughput of the people he can get. But it's a fantastic concept. But when I call it a planetarium, he gets upset. So we must call it the Dome. And rightly so, because, I mean, astronomy will be a part of what he does.
Yes.
I'm going to get involved with him, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's not just astronomy. It's art, it's nature, it's wildlife, it's mathematics, it's science. I mean, you could take a journey through the human body if you wanted. You could do operations and look inside. You know, the things you can do now are so incredible, and this facility is on the island for us to see and use.
That is astonishing. I knew nothing about this, but you can. The possibilities are endless, aren't
Absolutely.
they? For enjoyment and for teaching.
Very much so. I mean, he's talking about using it for medical use as well, and a fantastic idea.
And now we're training doctors on the island.
Yeah.
So you know, it's only going to enhance this. So, for example, the Isle of Man Astronomical Society would go as a group there.
Well, hoping to.
For an
I mean,
activity.
I've actually been asked by the society, can we arrange a group visit to it? And while he hasn't got an astronomy program as such yet, he's only had the thing built about 2 or 3 months now, and he's getting all the programs together. And I did some work with him to identify some astronomy programs for him to show, because he wants children to see that. But as I say, we as a group will certainly want to go and see it. And I know the Mathematical Society went to see it a few weeks ago. They were the first group visit he had, I believe. And I know Chris Stott as well is keen to use it for the SSPI, there is a Manx link to the space industry with the Society of Satellite Professionals Institute.
So it would be the groups approaching him and getting a dedicated programme or activity that would help them as a group.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than something that the public, as you say, it's not at this stage something
I don't think that's going to happen. But it takes about 30, 40 people. You've got wonderful reclining chairs you lie back in. And you just sit there and watch these things. And it's wonderful. It's therapeutic. And
but I also think that you would learn a huge amount, because in that kind of environment, you just couldn't help but you just
it's very visual.
So much,
They always say the visual side of it is far more important than the written word, but the visual side, one picture tells 1,000 words, is it? Something like that. And that's what this is going to be doing.
Excellent. Well, we wish him well with that.
We certainly do.
And
if people want to get in touch with him, just go to the Dome IM. The Dome IM is his website address.
Thedome.im.
And he will find you, and you'll find him, and I'm sure he'd love to hear from you if you've got any uses you can make of it that he can help with.
That's right. So if groups went to him and said, could you do this for our particular area of interest?
I'm sure he'd be, if he can't straight away, he'll certainly be looking into it.
Excellent. Thedome.im if you want to find out more about that. Fine. Stargazing in Onken Park.
Yeah, this is something we started doing as a society a few years ago. We did the first one in Douglas, actually, in Nobles Park, but there was too much light around. And very kindly, through Onken Commissioners, some of the members got together and said, let's have a dark sky event in Onken Park, at the dark sky site of Onken Park, which is on the path by the bowling green there. We've been doing this now for, I think it's 5 years. And they're incredibly successful. We do it officially from 7 to 9, but obviously it's a beautiful clear night. It can go on longer. Members take along their telescopes, and they can show people the various objects through the telescopes. Orion, as we mentioned just earlier, the Orion Nebula is a wonderful thing to see. The Andromeda Galaxy is something else. There may be planets around, and it's deliberately timed that it will be at a time of the month when there's no moonlight, because just as tonight we've got the the quarter moon out there, which is blotting all the fainter stars, 2 weeks' time, of course, it'll be a lot darker because there'll be no moonlight. So if we get clear skies, that's when we're doing the dark sky weekend. And this year, for the first time, instead of it being on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're having it on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So it gives people with children the chance to come along maybe and let the children see the wonders of the night sky, not just through the telescope, but guided tours of the night sky. And that's on the 19th, 20th and 21st of January.
Right, and then I know this is a long time off, but you are also planning to do it in Ballaugh in September, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. We did a star camp for the very first time last year. A couple of the members, Hayden and Mark, got together and decided, let's try it and see how it works. It was a great success. The skies weren't perfect, but we did get some great skies on the second night. It was the first night of the second night, I've forgotten now. But we did get some great clear skies. And there's about 100 odd people, 150, 200 people turned up. And so we're going to, again, do it for longer. We're going to do it for 3 nights in September next year. And people can camp, people can go along. There's facilities there, obviously refreshments. And we've got a big marquee which will have displays on and talks in. And it's something we did last year for the first time, and it was so successful. We're going to do it again. So
excellent. And I do think that, as you say, doing it over a weekend is so much better.
Oh yes,
because it makes it easier. If it's not a school night, it makes life a lot easier.
I mean,
doesn't
and
it?
these are the astronomers of tomorrow. These are the people I was inspired as a kid when I was about 9 or 10. I remember Yuri Gagarin in 1961, and Patrick Moore and the Leonid meteors in 1966. Children get inspired by these things. Okay, it may wane. Maybe they'll come back to it in later years, as I did. And most of our society members are the same. We've always had a fascination in it, and it's great to share it with children, especially. Nothing
that you tell a child or show a child is ever wasted.
No,
it may not be their career, but they'll remember. And that little bit of information will come back. So that's great.
It's funny, you asked me that. I remember asking my geography teacher when I was at school, why is the sky on the moon black? And you know what he told me? And I remember it to this day. How do we know? We haven't been there. We don't know. He didn't know the answer to the question, and he just dismissed me with a horrible answer. And I thought, oh, and it's made an impression on me. I could name him. I'm not going to.
No.
But it wasn't on the island, I hasten to add.
No, but then of course
but
not.
There you go. That's when you tell a child something or show a child something, it sticks in their mind because it will have an impression.
It does indeed. Now, the Isle of Man, a special place. Well, we know it's a special place.
Of course we do.
But this is a government initiative, isn't it? To celebrate all the things that we've got. And in your particular case, it's celebrating our dark skies,
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Well, it's something that came about a few months ago. I was asked would I be involved with this, and I was delighted to be, because obviously I'm always banging the drum about our dark skies, and I think, as we were just talking about earlier, they're so fantastic. We need to tell people how great our skies are, make them come and see them, and I know of people who live on the island because of that. But this initiative, the Isle of Man, a special place to live, is looking right across the whole spectrum of what we do. Walking, sea kayaking. I don't know how far it's gone with the programme because I've been away. But what I'm really delighted to say is the first event they're having of the year is to celebrate the dark skies. And this is subject to change because I'm waiting for confirmation with my meeting I'm going to have next week with them. But I understand the Monday night, the 22nd of January, is going to be the launch night when we're having a display of astrophotography, some of these fantastic dark sky images that people have done, and that's going to be the launch event. And then throughout the week there's going to be a series of astronomical activities, talks by myself and maybe others about the Manx night skies, what we can see, where we can see it, and all the rest. And then hopefully we're also we're going to do this dark sky survey, which was something that came up in conversation, and frankly I didn't think it had been picked up on, but I've since had a couple of emails about it, and they've said, well, how do we go about doing it? And I said, well, just tell people to find the constellation Orion, get the 4 corner stars and count how many stars are in the middle, and people will have an address and the details of how to do that. And we're going to do that again, you see, on the back of the astronomy weekend with the society in Onken Park. This is straight after that, so we've got a whole host of different activities we can do, which will hopefully make people appreciate and understand how good our skies are, and maybe people off the island will also understand what we've got.
So really, January, the end of January, is going to be a big time for you, for astronomy on the island.
Definitely.
Because we're going to start off with the stargazing in Onken Park. That's on Friday the 19th.
Yeah, that's the
and
first
then
of 3,
the Monday you've got these images, the dark sky images on display, and then the survey runs on from there. So we just need to be listening out for all of this.
We do indeed, and I'm got my teeth in. I'm anticipating there being a news story about it and interviews with different people who are organising it. Not myself necessarily. I'm a party to it, obviously, but it'd be great if there's lots of people involved and people can begin to appreciate just what we've got and why it's so special.
Exactly.
And we've arranged a blue moon especially for them as well.
Well, what more could you ask for?
I mean, come on, it took a lot of doing that, you know.
Well, not to a man of yours. You've got contacts anyway. Howard, we're almost beaten by the clock, but I must ask you, any planets on view? Tell us about anything in the morning skies.
Yes, of course. We're so busy talking about how good the winter sky was. I forgot to tell you the features of the sky at the moment. There are no planets on view in the evening sky at the moment, but what we have got is we've got 4 planets visible in the morning sky. Now, with the best will in the world, the planets Mercury and Saturn are very low, difficult to spot, so unless you know where you're looking for, I wouldn't talk about them too much. But if you get up in the morning, and let's be honest, 7 o'clock is it's plenty dark enough still at 7 o'clock, 6:30. There'll be a very bright star in the sky in the east. rising well before sun, that's the planet Jupiter. And not far away from it, there'll be a much fainter little star, but it isn't a star, of course, it's the planet Mars. And on the 10th of January, Mars and Jupiter are actually going to slide past one another. They'll be very easy to spot, with a very bright Jupiter, fainter red-coloured Mars next to it. And they are going to change places between the early few days of January through to the 10th and beyond. And we've also, just to really finish it all off for us, we've got the quadrantid meteor shower, which peaks on about the 3rd and 4th of January. Now again, we've got a lot of moonlight interfering with that, but this particular meteor shower is in the northern sky. I've just been talking about the fact that the plough is standing on its tail. Well, the quadrantid meteor shower comes from that area of the sky. You don't have to worry about the exact point where the meteors come from, what we call the radiant point. Just look in the northern sky and see if you can see any meteors. The moon behind you won't cause you too many problems, so it's a great opportunity to start the year off looking for some shooting stars. Never mind your resolutions, make a wish on the shooting star, and let's just wish for clear nights.
What a lovely romantic idea, wishing on a shooting star. When are you going to come back in the studio and tell us some more stories? When will you be back?
I'll be back in the middle of that week, actually, that we do the Dark Skies week, because I tell a lie. It's the following Thursday after that.
Is it?
The 29th, I think, off the top of my head.
Yes. It's a pity you couldn't come in just before that big weekend, isn't it?
Well, I'm pretty sure the newsroom will probably be wanting a little story or two, so I'll await contact.
Just you make sure
we
know.
James and the rest of them will be on the phone. Howard.
I'm sure they will. Just make sure we know all this, because there's no doubt about it. You know, for 100 and odd people to turn out for one of these stargazing nights, it shows
more than 100, about 200 we've had in the past.
That there really is a serious interest in astronomy.
There is.
And it's all down, I'm sure, to your infectious enthusiasm.
I don't know about
Howard Parkin, thank you very much indeed for joining us and helping us to enjoy the Manx sky at night.
My pleasure, Judith.
I wish you a very happy new year.
And the same to you.